Yes, we're working with chiffon today. I'm Vanessa with Ellie and Mac, and I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like there's some major misconceptions about chiffon. Number one, it's very expensive. And number two, it's only meant for formal occasions. We're going to blow those myths out of the water. I'm going to show you not only how affordable, but how breathable and comfortable this fabric can be. Let's get started. So first, let's take on the price. Now, chiffon can be made out of different types of material. The very expensive kind is usually made out of silk, but the most that's available to us, at a reasonable price that's at most fabric stores is actually made out of polyester. So this is going to bring the price way down. So the fabric that I got is regular $7.95, but I got it for 40% off. And so this brought it down to the very expensive price of $4.77 a yard. Not very expensive at all, right? And I usually can find this fabric on sale because I feel like it's kind of intimidating for most people. Now, let's talk about the problems that people have with chiffon. So here is the fabric right here, and you probably saw this with the unboxing, but it can fray. I'm not for sure if you can see the fraying happen, but it happens really easy. And if you rub it, you can actually damage the fabric. Now, this means that you don't want to put this fabric anywhere that's going to have a lot of rubbing. So we don't want to put it underneath our arms where our arms are going to be moving a lot, or as like shorts or pants, because this will rub a hole right into your seam. So it's not great for those areas, but it's perfect as a skirt or as like an overlay. So there are some really great applications with this fabric, but just make sure that you're not putting it in some high friction areas. This is also really great as a beach cover up. It works really well. So those are the options which I would use it for, but I just be really careful about those ones that are going to really destroy this fabric. Now, it's also really thin, really, really thin and see-through. And so the great thing about this is that there's so many options to handle it. Today, I handle it with bike shorts. I'm going to tell you why. It's because this fabric is so thin, it packs up really small. So yeah, I'm taking this on vacation with a pair of bike shorts to wear underneath it. But you can fully line this. You can wear a slip underneath it. I know that having some see-through fabric is actually really in style right now, so you can deal with that in a lot of different ways and not be too scared. Now, there's another issue, is that sometimes when you're sewing it, it can kind of start to gather on its own, regardless of how much you play with your tension, your needles, all that kind of stuff. It's just really thin. And so I'm going to show you how to solve that problem. I'm going to show you how to solve all the problems with chiffon and make you confident to use it on your own. And I'm telling you, I'm in love with this dress. So it is worth the time to learn how to work with it properly.
I might talk a little bit more about this pattern in just a little bit, but I want to just show that this is a really great pattern. It's called the Wrapped in Love. But one of the things that is so amazing about it, it's perfect for those of you who are still using paper patterns. Everything is cut on fold and with very stretchy fabric, just like a normal 50% stretch fabric. It works perfectly, and it's really easy with saving paper. And with really stretchy fabric, that's not an issue. It's when your fabric does not have stretch, when you're having like a woven, is a problem. Now, with the back, you actually cut it so there's a back seam. And the reason why, you just can see it doesn't have a sway back, but it's just so you know which side is the back. But it's also fully aligned. And so when I'm doing the liner on this one, I actually cut both on fold because I don't need that seam on the back with the liner, because I already know what side is the back. Now, it does, so I'm going to cut two of those with the liner. Another nice thing about it, and I'll talk about this more, is that there's no neck bands. So if you're really new to sewing and you're scared of neck bands, this is a boat cut and it's really nice. And here are the sleeves, again, cut on folds, so you're not going to accidentally get the sleeve on backwards. Now onto the chiffon and the skirt. So this is a Wrapped in Love. So it's actually, normally, it's a mock wrapped skirt. So you normally sew up the center just a little bit to kind of help give you coverage. But here, I want to make this ultra gathered. So this is a way to deal with very thin fabric, is to have a really nice tight gather. So I measured the widest part of my hips and thighs, and it was 38 inches. And so I wanted to do a double gather with that. So with seam allowance, and I just figured that 20 inches on fold was just going to work really well to cover and make sure I have enough gathering so it's not going to appear too see-through. And this is going to give us an ultra gather, which is just beautiful. And this fabric is so thin that it can handle it. Now, I wanted to do it at my knees. And so usually from your waist, if you're 5'5", 22 inches is good. I went 23 inches just to make sure, because I am going to come up a half an inch and actually roll hem this and top stitch it onto my top of my bodice, just to give a little extra detail. So I actually cut two of these very wide skirts panels.
Now that we have finished cutting the chiffon and the bodice of this pattern, it's the Wrapped in Love. I just want to just take a moment and talk about this pattern. I absolutely love it. It's one of the most flattering patterns that Ellie and Mac has. It cuts right at that most flattering point on everyone. So it's a flattering line right here. And it's a boat neck. Now, I think boat necks are highly underrated. I love them. And if you're new to sewing and you're a little scared about neck bands, this is perfect because it's fully lined. All you're doing is understitching, so it makes it really easy for beginners. I love the fitted sleeves. It's just a really beautiful pattern that's so easy to use. And you use knits and wovens, or you can use all knits. So you have so many options with this pattern, but I normally actually pair it with the chiffon because it's just beautiful. Just the way it works in the wind, and I love the little slit, and it's just perfect. But I've been making so many maxis lately. I'm pretty sure you're sick of it. So I decided to do this knee-length dress for you and just show you how versatile this pattern can be if you already have it. And if you don't have it, just go and look at the pictures on our website because it is gorgeous. It looks good on everyone. All right, let's get back to making this dress.
That'd be fun to kind of show you how I sew when I'm alone. So after I have everything cut, it's right over to prepping. So I'm going from my cutting table to my prepping with my serger. And first I'm going to do the bodice. So this is the back bodice panels that I'm going to serge together first, because that needs to be done before I do anything else. I'm also going to prep my sleeves at this point. So I'm going to prep the sleeves together, as well as I'm going to serge around the bottom. And so once I have the sleeve completely sewed on, then all I have to do is hem it. And this just makes sure, like if you get in the habit of doing this, this fabric's fine, but some fabrics start to fray. And if you can just get used to prepping a lot of your fabric at the very beginning, you're going to have a lot less problems with the fraying. And sewing in general goes really fast. So this I'm talking about right here. It's the prepping. So this is a woven, and so I'm going to actually serge the edges of this woven along the sides, and then I'm going to move right back over to my staging area. So this is the back of my panel, and I'm putting the front panel on top with right sides together. I'm not only going to prep it at the shoulders, but I'm going to prep it on the side body as well. And so this way I can easily get everything clipped together and take it to my serger. I'm also going to prep the lining. Now, as you remember, the lining we cut both on fold because there's no reason to have a seam on the inside. And then again, we are going to clip both the shoulders and the bodice. And I can take it over to the serger and I can quickly serge all of this at one time. And if you were the one who commented about my scissors being dull last video, yeah, I didn't switch them out for this video. So I'm so sorry if that's driving you crazy as well. I promise I will get all my scissors sharpened soon, but if you see me do a double snip, yeah, I'm sorry. And so after I do the shoulder seams on one side and the side seams, and you just keep going. And then we're going to turn our outside fabric outside up, and you can see I just love this texture. This fabric is just such a fun texture, and it's going to go beautiful with this chiffon. And so that's what the front looks like, and then we're going to show you what the lining looks like with right sides out, but I actually need this inside out. So that way I can line it up with right sides together. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm lining it up. And then I have it clipped so I'm clipping it around that neckline. And with this neckline, it's just, again, really easy. You're just going to serge the lining to that polka dot fabric that I have right there. And we're going to make sure that the wrong sides are up when I'm serging. And then we can turn it with the right sides out. And in order to hold this in place so you're not going to have that gaping, we're going to understitch. And understitching means pulling that stitch over to the inside. So that's going to be pulling it into my smooth fabric on the inside. And then we're just going to do a zigzag stitch, or I like to do a wide lightning stitch, or a long lightning stitch right here, because I feel like it looks nice. But again, this is going to be on the inside, and you can see that stitch right here, and it's just going to help hold that serge down so there's not going to be any gaping. Now we're going to turn everything inside out like I have it right here. My sleeves are right side out, and we're just going to pop it right into that bodice. And just make sure that you line up those bottom sleeves in the armhole or arm side, and we're going to clip, sorry, my hair is like right in front of the camera, and we're just going to clip those sleeves on. And we're going to do both sleeves at the same time, clipping them and then taking them over to get serged. Now we can turn everything right side out, and you can see how this is kind of working. Now we're going to line up the side seams here and clip them, because we're going to get ready to add on the elastic and sew the front bodice, the inside bodice, the outside bodice, and the lining. There we go. This is my Pico elastic. You guys know this is my favorite elastic. I use it in pretty much every single project that calls for elastic. It's nice and soft. I don't like things too tight around my stomach. It just does not feel comfortable to me. So I always like to start the Pico elastic. First, make sure that my needles grab it with my serger, and then I can put my presser foot back down. I'm going to make sure that I'm not cutting the elastic, and I'm just going to let the elastic slide by the knife without cutting it. And this is going to add support. This is not only going to support my bodice, but it's going to help support all that fabric that's going to come with my skirt. And so anytime you're doing this waistline, adding a little elastic right there really helps hold everything in place. Onto the chiffon. This is why we're here, right? So as you remember, we have already serged the sides of the chiffon, and also I sat and I stared at this chiffon for like 5 minutes trying to figure out what side's the front side and the inside, the outside fabric. It took me a minute because every time it laid over itself, it got darker and it looked like it was the right side. Okay. So here I have the serge, and I'm just going to clip the serge together and then take it to my sewing machine. So the part that we're sewing right here is the side seams. Now this fabric gathers, and you can see that little gather starting, but don't panic. This machine I'm using has AccuTension, and sometimes chiffon just still does gather. And then sometimes you loosen up your tension so much that it's almost too loose and it's not going to hold together, or it's going to rip apart. So don't panic at this point. Don't unpick. If we unpick with chiffon, you're going to cause more issues. Now, I am using my iron quite a bit, and I have it on synthetic, so I ironed after the serge, and I'm going to iron again after this. Now, here's the trick. You're going to lift up your presser foot, your needle, and you're going to keep your threads long. And then you're going to work out the gather. And so you want to make sure your threads are long enough that you can get that gather completely out. So you're just going to, with your fingers, just slide along until the gather is completely out. And you're going to take it to your iron after you get all of them out, and you can go back and back stitch the area where you have the long lines. So right here, I'm going to just come and sew on the stitches I already have, and I'm going to back stitch it down. But I have removed all of that gathering that was taking place. And so it's going to hold together and my seam is nice and smooth. So the secret is don't panic. Now with this machine, I actually can just bring it down and bring it to a rolled hem. And so it's just a little lever that I can push and it's really nice. Now this works really well with chiffon, but you need to remove that outside needle because any holes poked into this is just, it's not going to look as nice. So you want to not have any holes. Now we're going to do a test piece, but I'm going to make sure that I have my dial turned down to 1 so the stitches are really close. So this is the width of the stitches. Sorry, so much movement here, but I want to make sure that you catch all of these little things. Now with a Brother 1034D, you can actually have the needle finger. It's just like this little lever you pull and you can just remove it, and you can do this rolled hem with pretty much any serger. You just need to look through your manual or look it up, but this Burnett fun lock is really easy. So this is just the test fabric, and I'm just making sure that I like the way it looks. Sometimes you're going to need to readjust your tension, or you're going to need to have your stitch length a little different, but this machine usually does such a nice job that I never have to worry. It's been my favorite machine for doing this type of rolled detail on thin fabric. So now I'm ready to do my nice skirt. And seriously, once you finish the edges on this fabric, it's going to hold up. It's not going to have any problems. This is such a fun angle to see how this works. It's just, I love doing this rolled edge. It's just amazing to me. Now with this fabric, I actually don't pre-wash it because you can cause more damage to it with the unraveling and then those threads wrapping around itself. You can try to serge both the whole piece of fabric and then wash it, but it doesn't shrink. It's usually a polyester. Sometimes it has nylon built in, and you're just not going to have the problems. Now, here we're going to start gathering. I'm going to be gathering a 1/2 inch from that rolled edge. And I also don't suggest playing with your tension here. I know I say that often, but this one I don't suggest putting your tension at 9. And I also don't need to do a 5 length with the gather because we're going to be gathering this quite a bit. And if you have a wider gather, you're just opening yourself up for one of those gathers to tuck under and cause a hole. And so I like to really just hand gather, especially when it's just this really easy to gather fabric. Like there's just no need to try to rush this process, because when we increase our tension and the way that the needle comes down so often, it just really opens it for breaks. So when the needle comes down in your machine, it has to wrap around the bobbin, the thread does. So it's kind of going back and forth underneath that tension, and it just causes more breakage because the thread has been so stressed. So I usually just don't play with my tension, and that's the reason why. But here I'm just making sure that my gathers are nice and even. And you know, this is like, by the time it hits my waist is like a 2.5 gather. So it's the width of the fabric of my waist times like it's double itself plus like another half. It's insanely gathered, but but why not? It's chiffon. Like it can handle that width because it's so thin. Now I'm starting to pin where I have the gather stitch onto that elastic that's inside of my bodice. And so I can just see that line of the gathers, and I'm going to sew right on top of that line, and I'm going to be able to fill that elastic with my fingers. So this process goes a lot easier. And I also have it at 1/2 inch seam allowance, which this is a little wider presser foot, but I can easily keep that seam allowance, and I know that I can just sew on that gather stitch. And so I'm filling not only for the needles, but I'm also filling for that elastic and making sure that that stitch is there. I'm also taking time to just even up those gathers. I'm making sure that all the gathers are facing up. And so then all I have to do is do the sleeves. And I decided to do a 1/2 inch rolled hem on the sleeves. So it took about 1 inch off the length of the sleeve, and I was happy with that. I actually wanted a little shorter sleeve, and I just kind of do that by feel, and I use the side of my machine to gauge how wide. So that is giving me a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And yeah, this is what turned out. And I am just really excited. You can see my bike shorts because it is a little windy, but hey, that's okay. And you can definitely wear shorter bike shorts or whatever you're feeling comfortable with. This is just totally up to you. But yeah, I think that this turned out just absolutely lovely, and it makes a casual outfit look a lot nicer than just wearing shorts. I also love that little detail along the waist. It's just so fun.
You guys know that there are two things that I love in this world is number one, being comfortable. And number two, I actually like to look like I'm dressed up. And this dress is just, it's so cute. It's just, there's no other way to explain it. It's just adorable. I love the little waist detail. I love how gathered it is, how it flows in the wind. But I also really like having the bike shorts underneath it. I am so excited. I am taking this on a walking tour, and I am most certainly going to be wearing it with socks and sneakers, and I'm not going to care because I feel like I'm going to look so cute in this dress and I'm going to be so comfortable. Instead of walking around in bike shorts and a t-shirt, I feel like this is so elevated and it's kind of chilly. It's like only like 58 degrees outside. And so when I was doing the pictures and the videos and stuff, I'm like, I am chilly. And so when we go on this tour, it's going to be 100+ degrees, high humidity. And I'm like thinking to myself, I am ready. So I am super excited about this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on learning how to work with chiffon, learning how to do the rolled hem, learning how to sew up the side seams, and then also seeing this really adorable pattern, the wrapped in love. You're gonna just absolutely love this pattern. And there's so many options that I did not explore in this video. So this is definitely a really great pattern that I suggest for everyone because it looks good on everyone. Thank you so much for watching. You guys know I appreciate you guys so much, especially in the summer, because I know all of us have so many things to do, and to have you here with me is just thank you. A like and subscribe would be great, but just thank you. Happy sewing, and I'll catch you next time.